Hey everybody, welcome to 30 Ways to Happy Days. I am Alana Yvonne with Truly Great Life, and we are on way number 23. Way number 23, which is character strength of honesty. Honesty, big one, right? I know I say that for all these, but I'm going to say it again. What the heck does honesty mean? So if you're just joining us now, I highly recommend you check out ways 1 and 2 as they are foundational to all of the 30 ways that I'm sharing here. And if you've been following right along, let's just jump right in. Or even if not, let's just jump right in. So honesty is character strength, okay? In addition to, you can say it's a value and you can describe it as many different things, but here we're talking about really the language of character strengths, which is from the field of positive psychology, which describes these qualities that are inherent in every single human being around the planet, no matter where you're from, what culture, religion, nothing, doesn't matter. We all have these, and the question is, like certain muscles, are we using them? Are we aware of them? How much do we exercise them? And maybe they're just completely not used at all. So in looking at all these different ways to happy days, okay, so what does that mean? We're looking for tools, techniques, ways, and qualities that we all have, no matter what your story is, right? No matter what situation you're in. These are all tools you can use to make your day a little bit brighter, to make your day a little bit better, even if it's like a fraction of a percent towards that happy, day, or thriving, flourishing, well-being, feeling better about yourself, whatever it is that you've going on. Okay, that's what we're trying to do here. And honesty is, I think, almost like a foundational one because, well, let's jump into the definition real quick. Well, I'll just say this. If you can't be honest with yourself, starting here, and if you can't be honest with yourself about your reality, or about your situation, or about your relationship, or about your work, or about what you really desire, right? Then everything else is going to be based on whatever. I hesitate to use the word lie, right? But if if honesty is being true, then like the lie, right? So, and I understand there's shades of gray here. It's not that clear cut, but let's start with, are you being honest with yourself about whatever it is that you have going on? Are you being honest with yourself about what you want? Are you being honest with yourself about your feelings? Are you being honest, with yourself about your experiences? Are you being honest with yourself about the situations you find yourself in maybe over and over again? Or about the people you're hanging out with that may or may not be the people you want to be hanging out with or helping you get to where you want to go? How honest are you being with yourself about where you want to go? How you want to spend your time on this planet? What do you want to experience while you're here? I mean, that's kind of the whole underlying premise behind even the name of, my website, Truly Great Life. Like, are you being honest about what will make a truly great life for you? Or at least the pursuit of it, right? The reaching for it, the trying for it. Are you being honest about what you want, or are you reacting to what you're being shown? Or are you reacting to what you've been told you should want? Are you reacting to something that's cultural or generational or familial or societal? Spend any time on social media, you will be shown ideas, words, images, lifestyles that are, portraying something that you may interpret as being worthy of your pursuit. That was a little bit wordy. You will be shown things, you will hear things that may plant seeds about what you should want that aren't really true to what you want. So are you being honest about what you're consuming, and are you being honest about what you're producing? Are you being honest about your life? All right, let's jump into honesty. Okay, so first of all, definition. Honesty, character strength of honesty, the quality of honesty can also be understood, and if you don't like the word honesty, you can use one of these synonyms. And they're not an exact, match, but whatever resonates for you, right? Okay, so you've got authenticity. That word is thrown around a lot. Authentic, although I think that it's still legit. Like, are you being authentic? Are you being true to yourself? Are you sincere, but without like being pretentious about it, right? Is there just like almost like a clarity and an integrity, right? Where what you're doing and what you're saying matches up with what you're actually feeling or believing and desiring to pursue in those goals. Is there alignment, right? When this character strength of honesty, when we're using this muscle of honesty, there's an alignment with, if you want to take it on a spiritual level, like what you know is true on like an essential core spiritual feeling level, perhaps. Now, I'm going to say this down the road also, but I'm going to say it now. Like, the qualification here, or the thing to remember, is this is not about being brutally honest. This character strength is not, it's not about my way or the highway. I've used that phrase a couple times with these strengths, right? This isn't about, I've got this character strength of being true to myself and screw everybody else, right? That is not a positive use, perhaps, of this character strength. I understand that there may be situations or times where that kind of, again, blinders on, I got to do what I got to do to get out of this situation or make a change or whatever, may require being and using that strength of authenticity, being true to yourself, okay, being sincere, having that integrity. But it isn't about like your way over the feelings of someone else for the most part, okay? We want to also take into consideration others. We want to be sensitive to others' feelings, and this is where the nuance comes in. This is where it's not black or white, it's shades of gray. Like, how much of that character strength of authenticity, of honesty, are you bringing to the table? So like with all of these ways, there's an overuse, right? So an overuse of honesty would be like brutally honest, let's say, without any regard for anybody's feelings, and the truth is what matters, no matter how you feel about how I deliver it. And then the underuse would be like you're in complete denial or buying your own BS, and BSing everyone around you, let's say. Okay, so I mean, that's obviously extremes. We're looking for, in all of these ways, like the golden middle, that Goldilocks, just right. So another way to think about honesty is, you know, you are being that true to yourself. Assuming you know yourself, okay? These ways to happy days are ways to also get to know yourself better, okay? They're ways to know other people better, all right? But so being true to you, being true to your values, the things that are important to you, the things that matter, being true to your vision, all right? If you have a mission, what you identify with a mission, the thing that gives you purpose and meaning, right? You are being true to that. You're being, it's almost like a kind of loyalty to that idea that you have connected yourself to, you know, giving you meaning in your life, all right? Another way to understand honesty is you allow others to see the real you. I will argue that I am using my strength of honesty in making these recordings. There's no script here. There's no, so I would say this is one example of me using honesty for the purposes of sharing this information and kind of, you know, filtering it through my own way of communicating and my own examples. So that's one thing, and you are seeing the real me. So if you know me in real life, you probably are nodding your head. If you don't know me in real life, well, this is not a facade. I'm not even wearing makeup. I'm not dolled up for these things. This is just real, and it's pretty raw. The other way to think about authenticity or honesty is that you speak the truth. I understand that there is a lot out there now about what is the truth, your truth versus my truth. So putting that aside, just this idea of representing or speaking or acting upon the truth, leaving again aside this idea of what is truth. Okay. The other thing is you take responsibility for what you do and what you say. Okay. So when you're being honest with yourself, if you screw up, you can own it. And obviously that ties in a little bit with like your own self-concept and your confidence, your sense of self-esteem. Like if your ego is too much in the way, or if it feels too fragile, and it feels like the absolute most scary, risky thing in the world to acknowledge or admit that you made a mistake, and you cannot take responsibility, and you defer or you deflect, and you put blame on someone else or a circumstance or a situation, that would maybe be an example of not using your you see, I want to say authenticity, your honesty muscle. Okay, there's a risk, okay, that comes with being honest, with being authentic, that, you know, we have many faces. I'll just give you a little interesting tidbit. In Hebrew, the word for face is plural. Okay, it's almost like there's an acknowledgement that people wear different faces depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances. We're able to put on masks, however you want to look at it, right? It's kind of a nod to the human condition. But when we are able to take responsibility for what we've done, what we say, what we do, when we're at least able to start with ourselves and be honest with ourselves, how you go about with others or situation, that might be a little more complicated. But we want to be honest. We want to be honest with ourselves for starters. Okay? So yeah, honesty. What do you think about this character strength of honesty? Does it feel to you like something that could be a muscle that you use? Do you overuse your character strength of honesty? Do people tell you that you are brutally honest? Do people call you out on your BS? Do people say, no, tell me what you really feel? Right? So this one is kind of a heavy laden one, in that it can relate to a lot of different things that you may or may not be comfortable exploring. You may or may not be ready to look at, right? If something's holding up a mirror, are you able to look at it? Are you able to be honest with yourself about what is being reflected back, right? A mirror is being held up in your personal life. A mirror is held up by the people in your life. A mirror is held up at work. Do you like what you're seeing, right? It's hard. For protecting ourselves, our egos, our circumstances, our situations, if you feel there's a threat, how do you use your character strength of honesty? Okay, so think about a situation that you're in right now that is stressing you out, or that's making you sad, or that's difficult, or if that's too close to home or you can't come up with anything, think of someone else in your inner circle who may be having a hard time. And how can you bring this character strength of honesty to help them? Okay, how can you bring this character strength of speaking the truth and being authentic and having integrity to your own conversation with yourself or with somebody else? And then think about the other ways that we've been talking about. How can you bring in your social intelligence? All right, because again, all of these ways are lenses for empathy. They're lenses for seeing other people. How can you bring in your strength of forgiveness? How can you bring in your strength of perspective? Okay, so there's a lot here to think about. And you know, when it comes to kids, a lot of times it's a CYA kind of approach, right? They don't want to get in trouble, covering your butt. I'll use the word butt, CYA. But it's really, how do we make it safe for people to be using their character strength of honesty, right? How do we create a safe environment for our kids to come to us if they've made a decision or a mistake or a decision they regret, and for them to have integrity and to take responsibility for that, right? I would say you could use your own character strength of honesty to acknowledge like how you feel, but then there's, you know, maybe putting that aside and then bringing other character strengths like of forgiveness, perspective, love, gratitude that they came to you, bringing that, you know, together, and then responding to the person or the kid who's come forward. Okay, so there's a lot of good things here with honesty. I think, you know, just like kids maybe need to feel like it's safe to admit they made a mistake or to take responsibility for something, adults do too. There's a lot of blaming going around in our you can see that in our societal discourse. You can see that in the media. Examples where people own up to things, where they're honest with others and with themselves can be inspiring. That can be an example. The question is, at what cost is that going to come for the person? So at what cost, what's the cost of you being honest with yourself? What is at stake? What is at risk? With yourself about whatever situation you have going on, or with somebody else. So, and then you get to weigh the pros and cons, right? Or the risk reward. And do you want to do it? And for some people, it is not worth the risk, right? For some situations, for some times, for some of us, it is easier to buy our own BS and to keep that. I would suggest that maybe at some time, like, life catches up to you. But it's just something to think about. So I realize I may be coming at this from a less playful place. But one of the ways to get comfortable using your honesty muscle is to practice with the small things where the risk is small. Whatever that is for you. Okay? Trying to think of a good example here. Let's say, I don't know, I tend to go for the coffee shops. Let's say you're at a coffee shop and someone gives you, I don't know, the wrong order or an extra order, and you, this doesn't really work, but instead of maybe keeping that extra order, you let them know, oh, hey, you gave me an extra one, here it is. So you're being authentic to that image of yourself that you want to have when you go to bed at night and lay your head on the pillow, that you're an honest person, that you did the right thing, that you did a kindness, that you didn't take anything that wasn't yours. I know it's not the greatest example, but just something where it's easy for you to take responsibility in the sense of, like, you were given this and it's not yours and you give it back. Okay? I'm sure you can think of your own example with something small. And you get to think of a situation also maybe where it's not so small, and play it out in your head first, or write it out and kind of walk through the possible scenarios of what could happen if you have an authentic conversation, let's say, or an honest conversation. How can you do it in a way that you still have an integrity and you're still recognizing and honoring and respecting the person that you're speaking to? Okay, so that is something to also think about. So here's just a line that I saw from a website in myjewishlearning.com. If you do a search at myjewishlearning.com, the article is "Honesty as a Form of Idolatry," for those of you familiar with your 10 Commandments. Okay, so one of the lines here, let me just read it here. Honesty, while precious, is not an ultimate value. Important as it is to tell the truth, honesty retains its preeminence because it helps human beings live together in peace. On occasion, however, scrupulous honesty can damage a relationship, and in that instance, it is more important to protect a person's feelings, self-worth, and love. And another line from the article: if serving the Lord does not lead to caring for the dignity of other human beings, does not lead to a willingness to ignore one's own integrity to protect another's feelings, then there is something lacking in our notion of what God wants. Food for thought. According to the Torah and according to rabbinic tradition, God cares about human caring. Honesty in the service of compassion and growth is a mitzvah, is a commandment, is a ma'aseh tov, is a good deed, even if the truth is painful. I'm going to repeat that. Honesty in the service of compassion and growth is a good thing. It's a commandment. In Hebrew, we call it a mitzvah, even if the truth is painful. So there's, and I'll just finish this, honesty at the expense of another human's feelings, simply to air one's own viewpoint, is a betrayal of God. Big stuff here. How many times do you see examples in our culture or in the media or in your own personal experience of people speaking their truth without any consideration for the person they're speaking to? You can probably think of at least one example. And where they're saying that truth is the highest value and your feelings are secondary. Or this truth matters and I don't really need to, not monitor, but modify or take into consideration your feelings. Okay? There's a lot of, I'll just say it, verbal vomiting that goes out, okay, in the news, in the media, a lot of insults thrown at people or ways and judgments being added on to different things that people say or report or share without any consideration for the other human being at the end of it. And it's not to say that there isn't truth in it. The question is, how is it being delivered? And if you're spiritually minded, how does it affect you, the deliverer, or the receiver? Okay, so one more time for the record, because it's a good one. Honesty in the service of compassion and growth is a commandment. Let's just say it's a good thing, even if the truth is painful. Honesty at the expense of another human's feelings, simply to air one's own viewpoint, is a betrayal of God. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. But take it to this idea of like, if you're just airing your own feelings at, because you need to get it out there and you're not thinking of the other person, that is all ego. So ego can stand for edging God out. But again, if God's not your thing, like, just think about how you feel when someone is sharing something with you and clearly has no consideration for how it might impact you or how you feel. And then, are you guilty of that? Do you do that? Do you do that in your family? Do you do that with your friends? Do you do that at work? So deep stuff to think about. But again, if we want to look at it as, I want to go to bed with a clean conscience as much as possible, or I want to know that I've lived true to my principles or true to my values or true to what matters to me in a way that doesn't hurt other people. Because again, this is, when character strengths are used in the right way, they don't take away from anybody else. Okay, so what are you using? What tools are you using? What ways are you using? What muscles are you using that are taking away from someone else? What are you doing in a way that's giving to someone else? That's like a win-win, if you will. Okay, little bit of quotes here. I know I already quoted from the article, but I'll just throw out another couple. This one from William Shakespeare: "No legacy is so rich as honesty." And again, let's couple that with what we just learned about if it's with compassion, if it's for the sake of compassion and growth. Okay, if it's honesty for the sake of just blah blah blah, venting your own stuff or getting it off your chest without any consideration for someone else, maybe problematic. All right. Mark Twain: "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything." Sure. Let's just remember how people feel, though, and remember that people are different and sensitive, and to just pause, take a time out, and think about, read the room, if you will. Okay, that is that. And then, as you may recall from other recordings, loving songs that can, give a little more weight to this idea, help, get it in your brain. And so if you're not familiar with Billy Joel's song Honesty, I highly recommend you check it out, because that is a good one. And it's a good one. I'm not going to sing it, but go check it out. Billy Joel, Honesty. And so you can let me know how you honestly feel about this recording and this way to happy days. And in the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day, and see you on the next one.